I used to believe in fairy tales. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse apartment, I watched the Seoul skyline glitter like scattered diamonds against the velvet night. The city looked so beautiful from up here, so perfect. Just like my life appeared to be. Just like the lie I'd been living for 3 years. My name is Min Jin and I'm 28 years old. People often do double takes when they first meet me. My features are delicate, almost ethereal. I've been told my entire life that I'm beautiful in a way that transcends typical masculine standards. My Omega status only enhanced these qualities. Doe eyes, full lips, a slender frame that moved with natural grace. Some people, upon first glance, mistaken me for a woman until I spoke. I'd learned to take it as a compliment, though it sometimes made me feel like I existed in some in-between space. I'd worked hard to build my career as a senior marketing consultant. Elegant, professional, driven, these were the words people used to describe me. I took pride in my work, in the campaigns I created, in the respect I'd earned in a field dominated by alphas who often underestimated omegas. And then there was Kim Song. We'd met 3 years ago at a business conference in Busan. He was everything I thought I wanted: tall, handsome, successful. An alpha with sharp features and an even sharper business mind. He'd approached me during the networking dinner, his smile warm and genuine. "You're Min Jin from Aurora Marketing, aren't you?" he'd said, extending his hand. "I've been following your work on the Hansung campaign. Brilliant strategy." I'd been charmed immediately. Not because he was an alpha showing interest, I'd had plenty of that, but because he'd led with respect for my professional work. We talked for hours that night about business, about art, about our dreams. When he'd asked for my number, I'd given it without hesitation. The courtship had been wonderful. Flowers delivered to my office. Weekend trips to Jeju Island. Long conversations that stretched into the early morning hours. 6 months later, when he proposed at the same conference center where we'd met, I'd said yes with tears in my eyes. The wedding had been small but elegant, exactly what I'd wanted. My parents had flown in from Daegu, beaming with pride. Kim Song's family had been more reserved. His parents polite but distant, his younger brother Kim Yunho charming but oddly intense in the way he watched his brother. I should have paid more attention to that. The first year of marriage had been good. Or so I told myself. Kim Song had been attentive enough. We'd made love regularly, shared meals, talked about our days. But there were cracks I'd chosen not to see. The way his eyes would glaze over during conversations. The increasing frequency of late nights at the office. The phone calls he'd take in another room. And then there were those nights. Those terrible nights when we were intimate, when I'd open myself to him completely vulnerable and trusting, and he would whisper another name. Yunho. The first time it happened, I'd frozen beneath him. My heart had stuttered, confusion flooding through me. But Kim Song had continued, lost in his own world, and I'd convinced myself I'd misheard. Maybe he'd said, "you know," or something work-related. My mind had scrambled for explanations, desperate to maintain the illusion of our perfect marriage. It happened again. And again. Each time I'd felt a piece of my heart crack, but I'd plastered over it with excuses. He was tired. He was stressed about a big account. It didn't mean anything. I'd bury my face in the pillow and pretend everything was fine, even as silent tears slipped down my cheeks. By the 3rd year, Kim Song barely touched me at all. He was always too busy, too tired, too preoccupied. We lived like roommates who occasionally shared a bed. I'd thrown myself into my work, staying late at the office, taking on extra projects, anything to avoid coming home to an empty apartment and an even emptier marriage. I told myself I was being patient, that all marriages went through rough patches, that we'd find our way back to each other. I was so desperate to believe in the fairy tale that I'd ignored every warning sign. "Gina, I have something to discuss with you." It was a rainy Tuesday evening when Kim Song finally came home at a reasonable hour. I'd been in the kitchen preparing dinner, japchae his favorite, hoping that maybe a nice meal might spark some connection between us. He loosened his tie as he entered the kitchen, his expression unreadable. "My brother Yunho is going through some difficulties. His apartment building is undergoing major renovations and he needs a place to stay." I paused in my stirring, turning to face him. "Yunho? Of course he can stay with us. For how long?" "A few months, possibly longer." Kim Song's eyes didn't quite meet mine. "I hope that's all right with you." "Of course it is," I said, smiling warmly despite the strange flutter of unease in my stomach. "He's family. When will he be arriving?" "This weekend." Kim Yunho arrived on Saturday morning with 3 large suitcases and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He was younger than Kim Song by 2 years, equally handsome but with softer features. Where Kim Song was all sharp angles and cold professionalism, Yunho had a gentler appearance that belied something darker underneath. "Jin Hyung," he said, using the honorific that felt somehow too intimate. Thank you so much for letting me stay. I promise I won't be a burden. It's no trouble at all, I assured him, helping carry one of his bags to the guest room. Make yourself at home. And he did. Far too much. I noticed it immediately, the way Yunho and Kim Song interacted. At first, I thought I was being paranoid, seeing problems where there were none because my marriage was already strained. But as days turned into weeks, I couldn't ignore what was right in front of me. The way they sat too close on the couch. The way Yunho would touch Kim Song's arm, his shoulder, his face, with a familiarity that went beyond brotherly affection. The way Kim Song would light up around Yunho in a way he never did with me anymore. The inside jokes. The shared glances. The times I'd walk into a room and they'd spring apart, too quickly, too guiltily. I'd find them in Kim Song's study late at night, door closed, voices low. When I'd knock and enter, they'd be sitting at opposite ends of the room, but the air would feel charged, heavy with something unspoken. Don't you think they're close? I'd mention once to my friend Haewon over coffee. She'd frowned. Close how? I don't know. Maybe I'm being crazy. Just the way Yunho looks at him. The way Song acts different when Yunho's around. Gina, you're not suggesting? Haewon had trailed off, her expression troubled. No, of course not, I'd said quickly. They're brothers. I'm probably projecting because things have been difficult between Song-ah and me lately. But I couldn't shake the feeling. It crawled under my skin, made my chest tight, filled my dreams with shadowy doubts. Yunho was always kind to me in his way. He'd make coffee in the morning, ask about my work, compliment my cooking. But there was something calculating in his eyes, something that made me feel like I was a problem to be managed rather than family to be welcomed. You work so hard, Jin Hyung, he said one evening while I was reviewing presentation materials at the dining table. Kim Song had of course not come home yet. You should take better care of yourself. I'm fine, I said, offering a tired smile. Just a big project coming up. Still, you deserve to relax. Yunho leaned against the table, looking at me with what appeared to be genuine concern. Actually, I have an idea. There's this amazing spa I've been to, full body massage, aromatherapy, the works. Let me book you an appointment. My treat as thanks for letting me stay here. I looked up, surprised. Oh, Yunho, that's very thoughtful, but you don't have to. I insist, he said firmly. You've been so generous with me. Please let me do this one thing for you. Tomorrow afternoon? I'll book it for 3 o'clock. The offer was tempting. I'd been carrying so much tension in my shoulders, and the thought of a few hours of peace and pampering was appealing. All right, I agreed. Thank you, Yunho. That's very kind. His smile was strange, triumphant somehow, but I was too tired to analyze it. The next afternoon, I left for the spa with a lightness in my step I hadn't felt in months. Maybe Yunho really did care. Maybe I'd been wrong about everything. Maybe my marriage could still be saved, and this was the universe's way of giving me a moment to breathe and reset. The spa was in Gangnam, luxurious and serene. I gave the receptionist my name and was led to a changing room. But as I was putting my belongings in a locker, I realized I'd forgotten my phone in the car. My work phone, which I never went anywhere without. Apologizing to the staff, I explained I needed to run back to get it and would return shortly. They assured me my appointment could be pushed back 30 minutes. I drove home quickly, expecting to grab my phone from the counter where I'd left it charging and head right back. The apartment was quiet when I entered. Too quiet. Kim Song's shoes were by the door. He was home in the middle of the afternoon, which was unusual. Maybe he'd come home sick? I should check on him. I walked softly down the hallway toward our bedroom. The door was slightly ajar and I heard sounds. Low murmurs. Movement. Something in my gut twisted, screamed at me to turn around and leave. But my hand, seemingly of its own accord, pushed the door open. The world stopped. Kim Song and Yunho were in our bed. Our bed. Tangled together in ways that were unmistakable, undeniable. Yunho was beneath my husband, both of them naked, moving together with the desperate passion I'd craved and never received. I made a sound, a gasp, a sob, I don't know. They froze. Kim Song turned, his face going pale. Jean. No. The word came out broken. I stumbled backward, my hand clutching the door frame for support. Yunho didn't look ashamed. He looked almost relieved, triumphant. He sat up slowly, pulling a sheet over himself, and looked at me with cold eyes. You weren't supposed to know about this, he said calmly, as if we were discussing the weather. The spa appointment was supposed to take 3 hours. My mind couldn't process his words. This was planned? What? Kim Song was scrambling for his clothes, his face a mask of panic. Jean, please let me explain. Explain what? My voice was rising, hysteria creeping in. Explain how you're sleeping with your brother? Explain how long this has been going on? Explain why you married me? Gina. Don't. I held up my hand, tears streaming down my face. Don't call me that. Don't you dare. Yunho stood, wrapping the sheet around his waist, and walked toward me with that calculated calm that I now recognized as cruelty. My brother and I have always loved each other. Since we were teenagers. What we have is real, Jean. Not the fake marriage he trapped himself in to please our parents. The words hit me like physical blows. Fake. Kim Song finally found his voice. It's not, it wasn't supposed to be like this. My parents were pressuring me to marry, to produce an heir. They could never know about Yunho and me. So I found you. Found me. I repeated the words numbly. You found me. Like I was a solution to a problem. You were perfect, Kim Song continued, and he had the audacity to sound almost apologetic. Beautiful, successful, from a good family. An Omega who could give me children and make my parents happy. I thought I could do it. I thought I could keep Yunho as my secret and you as my cover. The cruelty of it took my breath away. 3 years. 3 years of my life wasted on a lie. And the children? I asked, my voice hollow. The heir you were supposed to produce? Yunho's smile was vicious. All that. You were wondering why you never got pregnant, weren't you? Despite everything. My blood ran cold. What did you do? The supplements I've been making for you, Yunho said casually. The ones I said would help with your energy and stress? They had a little something extra in them. Herbs that affect Omega fertility. Nothing permanent, of course. But enough to make sure you wouldn't conceive as long as you were taking them. I couldn't breathe. My legs gave out and I sank to the floor in the hallway. They'd poisoned me. They'd systematically destroyed any chance I had at the family I'd dreamed of, all while pretending to care. Why? The word was barely a whisper. Why go through all of this? Why not just be together? Because we live in reality, Jean, Kim Song said, and now his tone was hardening, the mask finally slipping. Because our family has expectations. Because we needed the perfect cover. And you were it. I looked up at the man I'd married, the man I'd loved, and saw a stranger. A cruel, selfish stranger who had used me and discarded me without a second thought. I want a divorce, I said clearly, surprised by the steadiness in my own voice. Kim Song nodded slowly. I think that's best. And I'm keeping the apartment, I continued, finding strength I didn't know I had. I'm keeping everything that's mine. And you're going to make this divorce as smooth and quiet as possible, or I'm going to tell everyone, your parents, your colleagues, everyone, exactly why our marriage ended. For the first time, Kim Song looked afraid. You wouldn't. Try me. I stood up, wiping my tears away. Pack your things. Both of you. Get out of my home. 3 months later, I was legally single again. Kim Song had been true to his word. The divorce had been quiet and efficient. He'd taken his belongings, Yunho had disappeared like the snake he was, and I'd been left with an empty apartment and a shattered heart. I'd thrown myself into work with a vengeance. 18-hour days. Weekends at the office. Anything to avoid thinking, feeling, remembering. My colleagues noticed the change in me, the weight I'd lost, the shadows under my eyes, the way my smiles never reached my eyes anymore. Gina, you need to take a break, Haewon had pleaded during one of our increasingly rare coffee meetings. You're going to burn out. I'm fine, I'd lied, the same lie I told everyone. But I wasn't fine. I was drowning and I didn't know how to ask for help. On a Friday night, 3 months and 4 days after signing the divorce papers, I found myself at an upscale bar in Itaewon. I told myself I was just going for one drink, just to unwind. But one drink became 2, became 4, became me losing count. The world had gone pleasantly fuzzy around the edges. The pain that had been my constant companion for months had dulled to a manageable ache. I felt warm, reckless, desperate for something, anything, to make me feel alive again. Another soju, I told the bartender, my words slightly slurred. Sir, perhaps you should slow down, he suggested gently. I'm celebrating, I announced to no one in particular. My divorce. Did you know? I'm freshly divorced. Free as a bird. I laughed and it sounded broken even to my own ears. The bartender exchanged glances with someone, but I was too drunk to care. I finished my drink and stood up, swaying slightly. The hotel bar was connected to a luxury hotel. I knew that much. Maybe I should get a room. Sleep it off. Face the world tomorrow. I fumbled with my phone, trying to book a room through the app, and somehow managed to complete the transaction. A key card was provided. A room number. 10th floor. I made it to the elevator, pressed the button, and watched the numbers climb. When the doors opened, I stumbled out, trying to focus on the room numbers. They kept swimming before my eyes. There. My room. I fumbled with the key card, heard the lock click, and pushed the door open. The room was dim, lit only by the city lights filtering through the curtains. There was a figure by the window, a man tall and broad-shouldered, his back to me. Something in my alcohol-soaked brain decided that this was exactly what I needed. Not to be alone. Not tonight. I walked toward him, my movements unsteady but determined. He turned as I approached, and even through my drunken haze, I registered that he was striking. Sharp features, dark intense eyes, an aura of power that would normally have intimidated me. "Wrong room," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "You need to leave." But I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to be alone with my thoughts, my pain, my broken dreams. I wanted to feel something other than the crushing weight of betrayal. I reached for him, my hands grasping at his shirt. "Please," I whispered. "Please, I don't want to think anymore." He caught my wrists, firm but not painful. "You're drunk. You don't know what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing," I insisted, though I absolutely didn't. I pressed closer, looking up at him with pleading eyes. "Please. Just for tonight. Help me forget." "You'll regret this in the morning," he warned, but I could hear something in his voice shifting. "I already regret everything," I said bitterly. "What's one more mistake?" I stood on my toes and kissed him. For a moment he remained perfectly still. Then something seemed to break in him. His hands released my wrists and moved to my waist, pulling me closer. He kissed me back, not gently but with a fierce intensity that took my breath away. "Last chance," he growled against my lips. "Walk away now or I won't stop." "Don't stop," I breathed. He lifted me effortlessly, carrying me toward the bed. Unlike Kim Song's distant, distracted touches, this man was completely present. His attention was focused entirely on me, intense and overwhelming. He laid me down on the bed, his body covering mine, and kissed me again, deeper this time, claiming. His hands were everywhere, removing my clothes with efficient movements while his lips traced patterns down my neck. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice rough. "Min Jin," I gasped as his teeth grazed my collarbone. "Min Jin," he repeated as if memorizing it. "I'm Li Wu. Remember that name. Say it." "Li Wu," I whispered. Louder. "Li Wu." I cried out as his hands found sensitive places I'd forgotten could bring pleasure. The night dissolved into sensation. He was demanding but attentive, rough but careful, dominant but somehow making me feel cherished in a way I never had before. Every touch seemed designed to drive me wild, to pull responses from me I didn't know I could make. "Look at me," he commanded at one point, and when my eyes met his, I saw something fierce and possessive that should have frightened me but instead made me feel wanted. Truly wanted. Where Kim Song had been cold and distant, Li Wu was fire and intensity. He learned my body like he was studying a map, finding every sensitive spot, every place that made me gasp and arch and beg for more. "Say my name," he demanded again, and I did until it was the only word I remembered. Hours later, or maybe minutes, time had lost all meaning, I lay in his arms, exhausted and sated in a way I'd never been before. His fingers traced lazy patterns on my shoulder, and despite everything, I felt safe. "You're going to regret this," he said quietly, not unkindly. "Probably," I agreed, my words slurred with exhaustion and alcohol. "But for right now, I don't regret anything." I felt him press a kiss to the top of my head, and then I drifted off into the first peaceful sleep I'd had in months. Consciousness returned slowly, accompanied by a pounding headache and a mouth that tasted like I'd been chewing on cotton. I groaned, burying my face in the pillow, and then froze. This wasn't my pillow. This wasn't my bed. And there was a warm, solid presence beside me. My eyes flew open. Memories of the previous night crashed over me in humiliating waves. The bar. The room. The man. Li Wu. I turned my head slowly, dreading what I'd see. He was awake, propped up on one elbow, watching me with those intense dark eyes. In the morning light streaming through the windows, he was even more striking than I'd realized. Sharp jawline, perfectly styled black hair, an aura of power that was almost palpable. "Good morning," he said calmly, as if waking up with a stranger in his bed was a completely normal occurrence for him. I sat up quickly, clutching the sheet to my chest, and immediately regretted the sudden movement as my head throbbed. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I was drunk, I shouldn't have." "You were very insistent," he said, amusement coloring his tone. "I tried to warn you." My face burned with embarrassment. I spotted my clothes scattered around the room and began scrambling to gather them. "I'll just go. I'm so sorry. This was a mistake, I never do things like this." "Stop." The command in his voice made me freeze. I looked back at him and he was sitting up now, the sheet pooling at his waist, and dear God, he was even more impressive in daylight. "What's your full name, Min Jin?" he asked. "Why does it matter?" I said, pulling on my shirt with shaking hands. "I'm leaving. We can both pretend this never happened." "I'm afraid that's not possible." Something in his tone made my stomach drop. "What do you mean?" He stood, utterly unself-conscious in his nakedness, and walked to where his own clothes were neatly draped over a chair. As he dressed, he spoke with casual certainty that was somehow terrifying. You came to my room. You initiated. You spent the night in my bed. He turned to face me, now wearing black slacks and in the process of buttoning an expensive-looking white shirt. Do you know who I am? You said your name was Li Wu, I said warily. Li Wu, he repeated. CEO of Titan Industries. Perhaps you've heard of it? My blood ran cold. Titan Industries. The largest private equity firm in Seoul. Known for their ruthless business practices and their even more ruthless CEO, who was referred to in business circles as the tyrant. Oh my God, I whispered. Now you understand. He finished with his shirt and approached me. I backed up instinctively until I hit the wall. He placed one hand on either side of my head, caging me in. I have a reputation to maintain, Min Jin. And you've put me in an interesting position. I'll sign whatever NDA you want, I said quickly. I won't tell anyone about this. Please, I just want to go home and forget this ever happened. That's where you're wrong. His face was inches from mine, and despite my fear, I felt my traitorous body respond to his proximity. You slept in my bed. By my rules, that means you belong to me now. That's insane, I breathed. You can't just, people don't belong to other people. In my world they do. His eyes were dark, intense, holding mine captive. I take what's mine, Min Jin. And whether you meant to or not, you made yourself mine last night. This is crazy. I'm leaving. I tried to duck under his arm, but he caught my wrist. You'll leave when I say you can leave. There was no anger in his voice, just absolute certainty. Sit. We need to talk. Maybe it was the alpha command in his voice, or maybe it was the fact that my omega instincts were recognizing something my mind refused to acknowledge, but I found myself sitting on the edge of the bed while he took the chair across from me. I'm not a monster, Li Wu said, his tone slightly softer. But I am a man of certain principles. You came to me willingly if drunkenly. You spent the night in my arms. Whether you intended it or not, you've created a bond. A bond? I repeated incredulously. You're an omega. I'm an alpha. Surely you understand the implications. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Tell me, Min Jin, why were you drinking yourself into oblivion in a hotel bar on a Friday night? I looked away. That's none of your business. Everything about you is my business now. When I didn't answer, he continued, you're wearing a ring tan. Recently divorced. My hand instinctively covered the pale strip on my finger. 3 months ago. And you thought sleeping with a stranger would help you move on? I thought it would help me forget. The words burst out of me. Just for one night, I wanted to forget that my husband married me to hide his affair with his own brother. I wanted to forget that I wasted 3 years of my life. I wanted to feel something other than broken. The confession hung in the air between us. Li Wu's expression had shifted, something that might have been sympathy crossing his features. I see, he said quietly. You were hurting. I'm still hurting, I whispered. And now I've made everything worse by doing this. Or perhaps, Li Wu said, standing and walking to the window, you've made everything better. How could this possibly be better? He turned back to me and there was something calculating in his expression. You need to move on from your past. I need something I didn't realize I was missing. Perhaps we can help each other. I don't understand. Move in with me. I stared at him. You're insane. I'm practical, he corrected. You're clearly struggling alone. I have more space than I need and find myself intrigued by you. Move in with me. Let me take care of you while you heal. And in return you can be your what? Your kept omega? Your toy. Anger was replacing my embarrassment. My companion, he said firmly. My equal. Someone who challenges me, which you've already proven you can do. I don't even know you. Then get to know me. He moved closer again. What do you have to lose, Min Jin? Go back to your empty apartment and your pain? Or take a chance on something different? This is insane, I repeated, but my voice lacked conviction. Give me 1 month, Li Wu pressed. Live with me for 1 month. If at the end of that time you want to leave, I'll let you go. But I think you'll find that what we started last night is far from over. I should have said no. Every rational part of my brain was screaming at me to run. But there was something in his eyes, a challenge, a promise, a possibility of something I couldn't quite name. And more than that, I was tired. Tired of hurting. Tired of being alone. Tired of pretending I was fine. 1 month, I heard myself say. But I have conditions. His lips curved into a smile. I'd expect nothing less. Name them. I keep my job. I'm not giving up my career. Agreed. I have my own space. My own room. You can have your own room, he said. Whether you'll use it is another matter. My face heated. I'm serious. So am I. Next condition? I'm not looking for love. I can't. Not after. I'm not offering love, Li Wu said, and something flickered in his expression. I'm offering partnership, companionship, mutual benefit. Fine. And at the end of the month, if I want to leave, you let me go. No strings, no threats, no using your power to make my life difficult. You have my word. He extended his hand. I looked at it for a long moment, knowing that taking it would change everything. Then, with a deep breath, I placed my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine, warm and strong. Welcome home, Minjin. Li Wu's penthouse made my previous apartment look like a closet. The entire top floor of one of Seoul's most exclusive buildings, it was a study in modern luxury, floor-to-ceiling windows offering 360-degree views of the city, furniture that probably cost more than I made in a year, art on the walls that I was fairly certain were originals. This is excessive, I said, standing in the middle of the main living area with my 2 suitcases. This is comfortable, Li Wu corrected, shrugging off his suit jacket. We'd stopped by my apartment to collect my things after leaving the hotel. The whole experience had felt surreal. Your room is this way. He led me down a hallway to a spacious bedroom with its own ensuite bathroom. The bed was huge, the closet walk-in, the bathroom featuring both a deep soaking tub and a rainfall shower. If you need anything, my room is at the other end of the hall, Li Wu said. Mrs. Kong comes 3 times a week to clean and can prepare meals if you'd like. Or you're welcome to use the kitchen yourself. Mrs. Kong? My housekeeper. She's very discreet. Of course he had a housekeeper. Right. Okay. Li Wu studied me for a moment. You look exhausted. Why don't you rest? We can discuss the details of our arrangement over dinner. I should probably go to work. It's Saturday, he interrupted. And you look like you haven't slept properly in months. Rest, Minjin. Work can wait. He left before I could argue, closing the door softly behind him. I stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by luxury I'd never imagined, and wondered what the hell I'd gotten myself into. But he was right about one thing, I was exhausted. The bed looked incredibly inviting. Maybe just a short nap. I woke up 8 hours later to the smell of something delicious cooking. Disoriented, I stumbled out of bed and followed my nose to the kitchen, where Li Wu was standing at the stove, still in his dress shirt but with the sleeves rolled up, cooking what appeared to be kimchi jjigae. You're awake, he said without turning around. Good timing. Dinner's almost ready. I stared at him. You cook. I live alone. The alternative is starving. He ladled the stew into bowls. Sit. I sat at the kitchen island, still trying to process this. Li Wu, the tyrant CEO, was cooking me dinner in his kitchen. This feels very domestic for someone who basically kidnapped me. I didn't kidnap you. You agreed to come. He set a bowl in front of me along with rice and banchan. Eat. The food was delicious, which annoyed me. I didn't want him to be good at anything domestic. It made him too human, too real. So, I said after several bites, what exactly do you expect from this arrangement? Li Wu considered his answer carefully. Companionship, as I said. Someone to share meals with. Intelligent conversation. Perhaps attend some business functions with me. And the physical aspect? That's up to you, he said, meeting my eyes. I won't force myself on you, Minjin. What happened last night happened because we both wanted it. If it happens again, it will be because we both want it. That's very reasonable. Did you expect me to be unreasonable? You're called the tyrant. He smiled and it transformed his face. In business, perhaps. But I'm not a barbarian. Despite what you might think, I don't make a habit of taking omegas home from bars. Then why me? The smile faded. I don't know, he admitted. There was something about you. Something beyond the physical attraction. Recognition, perhaps. Like I'd been waiting for you without knowing it. The words sent a shiver down my spine. That sounds like something from a drama. Perhaps. But it's true nonetheless. He took a bite of his stew. Tell me about your work. You're in marketing? I found myself relaxing as we talked. Li Wu was an attentive listener, asking intelligent questions, seeming genuinely interested in my campaigns and strategies. The conversation flowed naturally, moving from work to books to travel to our favorite foods. It was nice. Unexpectedly nice. I should clean up, I said when we'd finished eating. Mrs. Kong will handle it Monday. I'm not going to just leave dishes in the sink all weekend, I protested. Then we'll do them together. We fell into an easy rhythm, me washing and him drying. It was such a simple domestic act, but after 3 years of essentially living alone despite being married, it felt profound. The first week living with Li Wu was an exercise in contradictions. He left early for work, usually before I woke up, but always left fresh coffee in the pot and breakfast prepared. He'd return late, often after 8, but would always ask about my day. We'd share dinner, conversation flowing more easily each night, and then retire to our separate rooms. It was comfortable. Safe. And that terrified me. "You're being weird," Haewon said over lunch the following Wednesday. We were at our usual cafe near my office, and I'd been spacing out for the third time in 10 minutes. "I'm not being weird. You're glowing. You've gained back the weight you lost. You actually smiled at a joke today, a real smile, not that fake thing you've been doing for months." She narrowed her eyes. "What happened? Did you meet someone?" I nearly choked on my coffee. "What? No. I mean, it's complicated." "Complicated how?" I debated telling her. Haewon had been my friend since university, had held me while I cried after the divorce, had threatened to castrate Kim Song with a rusty spoon. If anyone deserved to know, it was her. "I'm sort of living with someone," I admitted quietly. Her eyes widened. "Living with someone? Gina, it's been 3 months since your divorce." "Who is he?" "His name is Lee Woo, and before you ask, yes, that Lee Woo." Haewon's jaw dropped. "The tyrant? The CEO of Titan Industries? That Lee Woo." "Please don't call him that," I said, surprising myself with the defensive tone. "He's not like his reputation. He's been really kind to me." "Kind?" "Gina, the man is famous for destroying companies that cross him. He made the Park Corporation CEO resign in disgrace last year." "That was business. This is different." I stirred my coffee, not meeting her eyes. "Look, I know it sounds crazy. I met him at a bar and then he asked me to move in and I said yes because I was tired of being alone and hurting, and now I'm in this weird situation where I'm living with this man who terrifies half of Seoul but makes me breakfast every morning." Haewon stared at me for a long moment. "You slept with him?" My face heated. "That's not." "Oh my God, you did. On the first night." She wasn't judging. There was excitement in her voice. "Gina, good for you. After what Song I put you through, you deserve to have some fun." "It's not just fun," I said softly. "That's what scares me. It's starting to feel like more." "Would that be so bad?" "Yes." I nearly shouted, then lowered my voice as other patrons looked our way. "Yes, it would be bad. I can't fall for someone again, Haewon. I barely survived the last time. And Lee Woo he's intense. He's powerful. He could destroy me so much worse than Song ever did." "Or," Haewon said gently, "he could heal you. Not every alpha is like your ex-husband, Gina. Some of them actually know how to treat their partners right." I wanted to believe her. But belief required trust, and trust required vulnerability, and I wasn't sure I had any vulnerability left to give. That evening, Lee Woo came home earlier than usual, around 6. I was in the kitchen attempting to make bulgogi, my mother's recipe, one of the few things I knew how to cook well. "Something smells good," he said, loosening his tie as he entered the kitchen. "I thought I'd cook tonight. You've been doing it all week." I glanced at him and noticed the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. "Rough day?" "You could say that." He poured himself a whiskey from the bar cart in the living room and returned to lean against the kitchen counter, watching me work. "The Hansung deal is falling apart. Their CEO is being difficult." "Hansung Electronics?" I paused in my stirring. "I worked on their last marketing campaign." "Park Mingyu, right?" "He's not difficult, he's scared." Lee Woo raised an eyebrow. "Scared?" "His company is family-owned, been in his family for 3 generations. He's terrified of being the one who loses it." I went back to cooking, thinking out loud. If you're trying to acquire them, you need to make him see you're not destroying his legacy, you're preserving it. Appeal to his sense of family, of history. Make him the hero of the story instead of the failure. There was silence. I looked up to find Lee Woo staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "What?" I asked, self-conscious. "You're brilliant," he said simply. "I've been approaching this all wrong. I've been using intimidation when I should have been using reassurance." "Well, that's kind of your thing, isn't it? The tyrant." He flinched slightly at the nickname. "That reputation serves me in business. But it's not who I am, Min Jin. Not entirely." "Then who are you?" I asked, turning off the stove and facing him. "Really?" Lee Woo was quiet for a moment, swirling the whiskey in his glass. "I'm someone who learned early that showing weakness means getting hurt. My father built Titan Industries from nothing, but he was ruthless. He taught me that power and fear were the only things that mattered in business." "Do you believe that?" "I used to." He met my eyes. "I'm not sure what I believe anymore." The vulnerability in his voice made my chest tight. I served the bulgogi and we ate at the kitchen island instead of the formal dining table, a habit we developed over the week. "My turn to ask a question," Lee Woo said after a while. "Why marketing? What drew you to it?" I smiled slightly. I like telling stories. That's what good marketing is, finding the story that makes people care. Every product, every company has a story. My job is to find it and tell it in a way that resonates. Is that what you did with Hansung? Found their story? I tried. I pitched this whole campaign about legacy and innovation, about honoring the past while embracing the future. Park Mingyu actually cried during the presentation. I laughed at the memory. He said it was the first time someone understood what his company meant to him. You see people, Li Wu said thoughtfully. Really see them. That's rare. Is that why you wanted me here? Because I see people? I wanted you here because I couldn't let you go, he said bluntly. The moment you walked into my room, drunk and heartbroken and still somehow beautiful, I knew I was in trouble. My heart hammered in my chest. Li Wu. I'm not asking you for anything, he interrupted. I'm just being honest. That's all we have, isn't it? Honesty? Honesty, I repeated. Okay. Honestly? You scare me. I know. Not because of your reputation. Because of how you make me feel. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Because when you look at me like you're looking at me right now, I forget why I'm supposed to be protecting my heart. And that terrifies me. Li Wu set down his glass and moved closer, his hand coming up to cup my face. What if I told you that you scare me too? How could I possibly scare you? Because you make me want things I swore I'd never want. Connection. Softness. Someone to come home to. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. You make me want to be someone other than the tyrant. Who do you want to be? Yours? He breathed and then his lips were on mine. Unlike the desperate, frantic kissing from that first night, this was slow, deliberate, a question more than a demand. I could feel him holding back, giving me the choice, and that restraint somehow made me want him more. I kissed him back, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He made a sound low in his throat and deepened the kiss, his arms wrapping around my waist and lifting me onto the counter. Is this okay? He murmured against my lips. Yes, I gasped as his mouth moved to my neck. Yes, it's okay. His hand slid under my shirt, warm against my skin, and I arched into his touch. Every nerve ending felt alive, hyper-aware of everywhere we connected. This was different from that first night. Less about forgetting and more about feeling, about being present in this moment with this man who was somehow breaking through walls I'd thought were impenetrable. Bedroom, Li Wu growled and I nodded breathlessly. He carried me down the hallway and I noticed we were heading toward his room, not mine. The door closed behind us and then we were falling onto his bed together, a tangle of limbs and desperate touches. Tell me to stop, he said even as his hands worked at the buttons of my shirt. Tell me this is too fast and I'll stop. Don't stop, I said the same words from that first night, but this time I was completely sober. This time I knew exactly what I was choosing. Please don't stop. Clothes disappeared. His mouth was everywhere. My throat, my chest, my stomach, each touch reverent and claiming all at once. Where our first encounter had been wild and desperate, this was different. Slower. More intentional. Like he was memorizing every inch of me, learning what made me gasp and moan and beg. So beautiful, he murmured against my skin. Do you have any idea how beautiful you are? I couldn't answer, could barely think. His hands, his mouth, his body were overwhelming in the best possible way. When he finally entered me, I cried out his name and he captured the sound with a kiss. Look at me, he commanded softly, and when my eyes met his, I saw something that made my breath catch. Not just desire, though there was plenty of that, but tenderness, care. Something that looked dangerously like affection. We moved together, finding a rhythm that felt both new and ancient, like our bodies had always been meant to fit together this way. The pleasure built slowly, intensely, and when I finally fell apart in his arms, he was right there with me, my name a prayer on his lips. Afterwards, we lay tangled together, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my back while I caught my breath against his chest. Stay, he said quietly. In my bed. Tonight. I should have said no. Should have retreated to my own room, maintained some distance. But I was tired of running, tired of protecting myself, tired of being alone. Okay, I whispered. I'll stay. His arms tightened around me and I felt him press a kiss to the top of my head. Within minutes, I was drifting off to sleep, feeling safer than I had in years. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through the windows and Li Wu's arm draped possessively across my waist. For a moment, panic fluttered in my chest. This was too intimate, too real, too much like the relationship I thought I had with Kim Song. But then Li Wu stirred, pulling me closer and murmured sleepily, "Morning, beautiful." Kim Song had never called me beautiful. Had never held me like I was something precious. Had never looked at me the way Li Wu was looking at me now, with warmth and genuine affection. This was different. It was different. Morning, I replied, my voice rough with sleep. I have a meeting at 9, he said reluctantly. But I'd very much like to stay here with you instead. Skipping work? That doesn't sound like the tyrant CEO. He laughed, a real genuine laugh that transformed his entire face. You're going to keep calling me that, aren't you? Only when you're being particularly intimidating. I traced a finger down his chest. Which, for the record, you're not being right now. Give me time. I'm sure I can work up to intimidating. He caught my hand and brought it to his lips. But for now, how about breakfast? We cooked together, or rather, I made coffee while he expertly prepared a Western-style breakfast of eggs, bacon, and toast. It was domestic and comfortable, and I found myself relaxing into it. I've been thinking about what you said, Li Wu mentioned as we ate. About the Hansung deal. Would you be willing to consult on it? Officially? I looked up in surprise. You want to hire me? I want your expertise. You understand Park Mingyu's psychology better than anyone on my team. I'll pay you consultant rates, of course. Li Wu, I'm already living here rent-free. This is business, Minjin. Your professional insight is valuable, and I intend to compensate you appropriately. His tone was firm. Unless you'd rather not mix our personal and professional relationships? No, I'd actually like that. I've always wanted to work on acquisition strategy. I felt excitement building. I have some ideas about how to approach the pitch. Then you'll join us for the meeting next week? I'd be honored. His smile was proud and something warm bloomed in my chest. This was what partnership looked like. Mutual respect, professional admiration, supporting each other's strengths. The week that followed fell into a comfortable pattern. We'd have breakfast together, head off to our respective offices, and reunite for dinner. Some nights we'd talk for hours about everything and nothing. Other nights we'd barely make it through the door before we were pulling at each other's clothes, desperate and wanting. But it was more than just physical. Li Wu would text me during the day, sometimes work-related questions, sometimes just random observations. The coffee here is terrible. Yours is better. Or saw something that made me think of you, followed by a picture of an elegant fountain pen in a shop window. He learned that I liked to read before bed and started leaving books on my nightstand. Ones he thought I'd enjoy based on our conversations. I learned that he was usually stressed on Thursdays because of board meetings and started making his favorite comfort food on those nights. We were learning each other. Building something. And it terrified me. You're falling for him, Haewon observed during our next lunch. Don't even try to deny it, it's written all over your face. Is that so bad? I asked quietly. No, honey. It's not bad at all. It's just scary. What if he hurts me? What if he doesn't? She countered. Gina, you can't live your life afraid of being hurt again. Sometimes you have to take the risk. That evening, the Hansung meeting arrived. I was nervous. This was my first time working directly with Li Wu in a professional capacity, and I didn't want to disappoint him. The Titan Industries conference room was intimidating. All glass and steel and serious-faced executives. Park Mingyu sat at the far end of the table, looking defensive and uncomfortable. Li Wu introduced me professionally. Min Jin will be consulting on the creative direction of this acquisition. Some of you may be familiar with his work. He's one of Seoul's top marketing strategists. I caught the subtle emphasis on his work, establishing my credibility independent of our personal relationship. It made me appreciate him even more. I presented my strategy, reframing the acquisition as a partnership, emphasizing legacy preservation, creating a narrative where Park Mingyu became the visionary who ensured his family's company would thrive for generations to come. Your grandfather built something remarkable, I said, addressing Park directly. Your father expanded it. And now you have the opportunity to secure its future. Titan Industries isn't trying to erase Hansung's identity, they're trying to strengthen it. To give you the resources to compete globally while maintaining everything that makes Hansung special. I watched Park's expression shift from defensive to considering. You worked on our campaign 3 years ago. I did. And I remember how much pride you had in your company's story. That story doesn't end with this acquisition, it evolves. By the end of the meeting, Park had agreed to move forward with negotiations. As people filed out, Li Wu's hand briefly touched the small of my back, a private gesture of approval that sent warmth through me. You were incredible, he said once we were alone in his office. You completely changed the energy of that room. We make a good team, I said and meant it. We do. He pulled me closer, his eyes intense. In more ways than one. He kissed me there in his office, and for once I didn't worry about what it meant or where we were heading. I just let myself feel. 3 weeks into living with Li Wu, I was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could have this. Could have him. Could have happiness again. And then Kim Song showed up at my office. I was reviewing campaign materials when my assistant knocked on the door. Mr. Min? There's someone here to see you. A Kim Song? My blood ran cold. Tell him I'm not available. I already did, but he says it's urgent. He seems distressed. Against my better judgment, I agreed to see him. Kim Song entered my office looking haggard, circles under his eyes, rumpled suit, none of the polished perfection I remembered. Gina, he started, and I held up my hand. Don't. You don't get to call me that anymore. I kept my voice cold, professional. What do you want? I made a mistake, he said, and there were actual tears in his eyes. A terrible mistake. Leaving you was the worst decision of my life. I stared at him in disbelief. Are you serious right now? Yunho and I, it fell apart. It was never real, not like what you and I had. It was just an obsession, a fantasy. But you, Jean, you were real. You were good and kind and everything I should have valued. He stepped closer. I want you back. Please. We can start over. I'll do it right this time. Get out, I said quietly. Jean, please. Get out. The words tore from my throat. You don't get to do this. You don't get to shatter my entire world and then waltz back in when your twisted fantasy falls apart. I was your cover story, remember? Your convenient omega while you fucked your own brother. I was confused. You were cruel. Tears were streaming down my face now. You poisoned me. You made me believe something was wrong with me when you were systematically preventing me from having children. You called out another man's name while you were inside me. And now you want to start over? I know I hurt you. You destroyed me. My voice broke. It took me months to even feel human again. And now I finally am. I finally found someone who sees me, who values me, who treats me like I matter, and you show up wanting a second chance. Kim Song's expression shifted, something ugly crossing his features. Someone? You've moved on already? That's none of your business. It's been 3 months, Jean. Who is he? Someone who actually gives a damn about me? I spat. Someone who didn't need to use me as a shield for his fucked up relationship. You're making a mistake, Kim Song said, his voice turning hard. Whoever he is, he can't love you the way you didn't? I laughed bitterly. He already treats me better than you ever did. Now get out of my office before I call security. Kim Song stared at me for a long moment, then turned and left without another word. The moment the door closed, I collapsed into my chair, shaking. My phone buzzed with a text from Li Wu. How did the Peterson presentation go? I stared at the message, then made a decision. I called him. Minjin? Is everything all right? His voice was immediately concerned. Can you come pick me up? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. I need to leave. I need you. I'm on my way. 10 minutes. He made it in 8. I was waiting in the lobby when his car pulled up and I practically ran to it. The moment I was inside, his arms were around me. What happened? He demanded gently. Kim Song came to my office. I said against his chest. He wants me back. Said leaving me was a mistake. I felt Li Wu tense. What did you tell him? I told him to get out. I told him I'd moved on. I pulled back to look at him. I have moved on, haven't I? This isn't just, we're not just anything, Li Wu said firmly, cupping my face. Minjin, you're not a placeholder or a distraction. You're becoming everything. That scares me, I whispered. It scares me too. He pressed his forehead to mine. But I'm not going anywhere. And I'm sure as hell not letting you go back to someone who never deserved you in the first place. Take me home, I said. Please. He did. And when we got back to the penthouse, he didn't try to seduce me or distract me. Instead, he drew me a bath, made me tea, and sat with me while I processed everything. Thank you, I said eventually, for just being here. For not making this into something it doesn't need to be. Always, he promised. That night, I slept in his bed again. Not because we made love, but because I couldn't bear to be alone. He held me through the night, steady and constant, and I let myself believe that maybe this could really work. The 1-month mark came and went without discussion. We'd both silently agreed that I wasn't leaving, that what we had was worth continuing. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. I was at a charity gala with Li Wu, my first official appearance as his partner at a public event. I was nervous but excited, wearing a tailored suit that Li Wu had insisted on buying me despite my protests. You look stunning, he'd said when I'd emerged from the bedroom, his eyes dark with appreciation. Everyone's going to know you're mine. The possessiveness should have bothered me. Instead, it made me feel wanted in a way I never had before. The gala was at a luxury hotel filled with Seoul's elite. Li Wu kept me close, his hand never leaving the small of my back, introducing me to business partners and associates. This is Min Jin, he'd say, and the pride in his voice made my chest warm. He's the brilliant strategist who saved my Hansung deal. We were at the bar getting drinks when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Well, Min Jin. I turned to find Yunho standing there, looking smug in an expensive suit. Kim Song was beside him, expression unreadable. Yunho. Kim Song. I kept my voice neutral. Excuse us, we were just leaving with the tyrant? Yunho's smile was nasty. How fitting. You always did have a thing for powerful alphas, didn't you, Jean? Li Wu's hand tightened on my waist. I don't believe we've been introduced. Kim Yunho, he said, extending his hand in a mockery of politeness. And this is my brother, Kim Song. We're Jin's exes. Well, Song is. I was just the one who opened his eyes to reality. By sleeping with his husband, Li Wu said coldly, ignoring the offered hand. Yes, Min Jin told me all about you. Yunho's expression flickered. So he told you? About how he wasn't enough to keep his own husband interested. About how Song chose me over him every single time. Yunho, Kim Song said warningly, but there was no real conviction in it. He told me about how you were cruel enough to drug him to prevent pregnancy, Li Wu said, his voice deadly quiet. And how your brother was weak enough to betray someone who loved him. But please continue. I'm fascinated to hear what other revelations you think will hurt Min Jin. Well, it's fine, I said quietly. They're not worth it. Oh, but we are, Yunho said. Because I know something you don't, Mr. Li. Jin might seem perfect, but he's broken. Damaged goods. And eventually you'll realize what Song did, that he's not worth the effort. Something snapped in me. All the months of pain, of self-doubt, of wondering if I really was somehow insufficient, it crystallized into fury. You're right, I said clearly, and everyone looked at me in surprise. I am broken. You and Song broke me. You systematically destroyed my trust, my self-worth, my dreams of having a family. You were cruel and calculating, and you enjoyed it. Yunho started to smile triumphantly, but I wasn't finished. But the thing about broken things, Yunho, is that they can be repaired. They can be made stronger at the broken places. And that's what I'm doing, healing, growing, becoming someone better than the person you tried to destroy. I looked at Kim Song. I loved you. Completely. And you threw it away for something twisted and wrong. That's on you, not me. I turned to Li Wu, who was watching me with something like awe. I'm ready to go home now. Of course. He took my hand, lacing our fingers together, and looked at Kim Song and Yunho. Min Jin is right, you're not worth our time. But let me be perfectly clear. If either of you approach him again, if you so much as look at him wrong, you'll discover exactly why people call me the tyrant. And trust me, my reputation is well earned. We walked away, leaving them stunned in our wake. Once we were in the car, I started shaking. That was... I couldn't find the words. Incredibly brave, Li Wu finished. Min Jin, you were magnificent. I can't believe I said all that. I can. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for. He pulled me close. And you're right, you're healing. I can see it every day. Because of you, I whispered. You make me feel whole again. You were always whole, Min Jin. I just helped you see it. He kissed me softly. Let's go home. I think we both need to decompress. Back at the penthouse, the adrenaline finally wore off and I crashed emotionally. Li Wu held me while I cried, not from sadness but from release. Letting go of the last pieces of pain I'd been carrying. I don't want to think about them anymore, I said when I'd finally cried myself out. I just want to think about us. About this. Then that's what we'll do. Li Wu tilted my face up to his. Min Jin, I need to tell you something. What? I love you. The words hung in the air between us. My heart stopped, then started racing. You, what? I love you, he repeated, his eyes intense and sincere. I know we said this wasn't about love, that we were just offering each other companionship. But somewhere along the way that changed for me. You changed me. Made me want to be better, softer, more than just the tyrant everyone fears. Whoa. You don't have to say it back, he continued quickly. I know you're still healing, still learning to trust. But I needed you to know. I'm in love with you, Min Jin. Completely. Tears were streaming down my face again, but this time from joy. You love me? I love you, he confirmed, wiping away my tears. I love you too, I said, the words tumbling out. God, I love you too. I was so scared to admit it, so scared of being hurt again, but I do. I love you, Li Wu. He kissed me then, deep and passionate and claiming. Say it again, he demanded against my lips. I love you. Again. I love you, Li Wu. I love you, I love you, I love you. He lifted me, carrying me to the bedroom. Our bedroom now, as I'd long since stopped using the guest room. This time when we made love, it was different. Not just physical pleasure or emotional comfort, but the ultimate expression of what we'd built together. Mine, he growled as he moved inside me, and I arched into him. Yours, I gasped. Always yours. We moved together, finding that perfect rhythm again, and when we finally fell apart together, it felt like coming home. Afterwards, tangled in the sheets, Li Wu traced patterns on my skin. Move in with me. Officially. Not as an arrangement or an experiment, but as my partner. My boyfriend. My Omega. I already live here, I laughed. You know what I mean. No more pretending this is temporary. No more holding back. Just us building a life together. I looked at him, this man who'd been called the tyrant, who was feared by so many, who'd shown me such tenderness and patience and love. Yes, I said simply. Yes to all of it. His smile was brilliant. Good. Because I'm never letting you go. Stop fidgeting, Haewon scolded, adjusting my tie. You look perfect. I stared at myself in the mirror. The restaurant was about to open for the private event, and I was more nervous than I'd been in months. What if he doesn't like it? I fretted. Gina, you planned this whole evening. He's going to love it. She stepped back, examining me critically. There. Perfect. Now go before your guests arrive. The private dining room looked beautiful. Candles, flowers, photos of Li Wu and me throughout the past year displayed on elegant boards. Our friends and family would arrive soon for dinner, but first I had something important to do. Li Wu was at work, thinking he was coming home to a quiet evening. I'd arranged for his assistant to bring him here instead, under the guise of a business dinner. My phone buzzed. He's on his way up from his assistant. This was it. The door opened and Li Wu walked in, stopping short when he saw the setup. Minjin? What's all this? I stepped forward, my heart pounding. A year ago today I walked into your hotel room, drunk and broken and desperate. You could have sent me away. Instead you gave me a home. You gave me love. You gave me back myself. Minjin? His voice was choked with emotion. Let me finish. I took a deep breath. This past year has been the happiest of my life. You've supported my career, celebrated my successes, held me through my fears. You've been my partner in every sense of the word. I pulled a small box from my pocket and dropped to one knee. Li Wu's eyes went wide. Li Wu, I know we're both alphas and omegas, I know traditional proposals might go differently. But you taught me that we make our own rules, our own happiness. I opened the box, revealing a simple platinum band. Will you marry me? For a moment, Li Wu just stared. Then he was pulling me to my feet, crushing me in a hug, and I heard him whisper, yes. Yes, of course, yes. We kissed, deep and loving, and I heard applause. Our friends had arrived and witnessed the whole thing. About time. Haewon shouted and everyone laughed. The dinner was perfect. Li Wu kept staring at the ring on his finger, a small smile playing at his lips. Our parents got along beautifully. Even my Omega father was charmed by Li Wu's genuine love for me. Late that night, back in our penthouse, Li Wu pulled me into his arms. I can't believe you proposed to me. Someone had to, I teased. You were taking forever. I was planning to propose next month, he admitted. Had the ring picked out and everything. Then I guess I beat you to it. You did. He kissed me softly. I love you, Minjin. My Omega. My partner. My fiancé. I love you too, I said. My tyrant. My protector. My home. We made love slowly, tenderly, celebrating the promise we'd made to each other. And as I fell asleep in Li Wu's arms, I thought about how far I'd come. From broken and betrayed to whole and loved. From thinking I'd never trust again to planning a future with the man who'd shown me what real love looked like. I'd walked into that hotel room looking to forget. Instead, I'd found something to remember forever. 2 years after the wedding. Woo-ah, come look at this. I stood in the doorway of what had been our home office, now transformed into a nursery. After 2 years of marriage, we decided to start the family I'd always dreamed of. Through a wonderful surrogate, we were expecting twins, a boy and a girl. Li Wu came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist and resting his chin on my shoulder. It's perfect, just like you said it would be. The room was painted in soft yellows and greens, with 2 cribs already set up. Shelves lined with books, because of course we'd be reading to our children from day one. Toys carefully selected. Everything ready for the babies who would arrive in just 2 months. I can't believe this is really happening. I whispered, placing my hands over his. After everything, I never thought I'd get to have this. You deserve this, Li Wu said firmly, turning me around to face him. You deserve all the happiness in the world, Minjin. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you have it. I looked up at him, this man who'd become my everything. The feared tyrant who was anything but tyrannical with me. Who rubbed my feet after long days, who still left me notes in my lunch, who'd held my hand through every doctor's appointment and surrogacy meeting. Do you ever think about that night? I asked. When I stumbled into your room? Every day. His smile was soft. Best mistake you ever made. Best decision I ever made, I corrected. Even drunk, some part of me knew I was exactly where I needed to be. With me. With you, I confirmed. Always with you. He kissed me then, sweet and gentle, and I melted into him the way I always did. Even after all this time, his touch still made my heart race, still made me feel cherished and wanted. The nursery looks wonderful, came a voice from behind us, and we broke apart to see Mrs. Kong in the doorway, her usually stern face softened with a rare smile. Those babies are very lucky. We're the lucky ones, Li Wu said, his arms still around my waist. Mrs. Kong had been skeptical when Li Wu first brought me home, I'd learned later. She'd seen other Omegas come and go, not many, but enough to make her protective of her employer. But somewhere along the way I'd won her over. Now she fussed over me almost as much as Li Wu did, already planning meals for after the babies arrived, researching the best organic baby foods. Dinner will be ready in an hour, she informed us. Your favorite Mr. Min, japchae and bulgogi. You spoil me, Mrs. Kong. Someone has to, she said with a sniff, but her eyes were warm. Mr. Li works too much as it is. After she left, Li Wu pulled me toward the nursery's rocking chair, a beautiful wooden piece his mother had sent as a gift. He sat down and pulled me into his lap. I've been thinking, he said. Dangerous, I teased. He huffed a laugh. About cutting back my hours at Titan. Maybe promoting Choi to COO so I can focus more on being present for you and the babies. I sat up straighter. Why, you don't have to do that. I know how important your work is. You're more important, he said simply. You and our children. I don't want to be the kind of father who misses everything because he's too busy building an empire. The empire means nothing if I'm not sharing it with the people I love. My eyes stung with tears, hormones from the sympathetic pregnancy symptoms I'd been experiencing, but also genuine emotion. You're going to be an amazing father. Only because I have an amazing partner. He placed his hand on my stomach even though the babies weren't growing there. It was a gesture he'd started doing anyway, a way of connecting with the children we'd soon hold. Have you thought more about names? We'd been debating this for weeks. I wanted names that meant something, that told a story. Li Wu wanted names that would give our children strength. I was thinking, Seo Jun for the boy, I said. Auspicious and talented. And Hyun for the girl. Summer blessing. Li Wu was quiet for a moment, testing the names. Seo Jun, Hyun. He smiled. Perfect. They're perfect, Min Jin. Yeah. He kissed my temple. Everything about this life we're building is perfect. The day everything changed. The call came at 2 a.m. Mr. Lee? Mr. Min? The surrogate has gone into labor. It's early but the babies are coming. We were at the hospital in 20 minutes, both of us having barely thrown on clothes. The surrogate, Ji-won, was a sweet Omega who'd become a friend over the past months. She'd insisted she wanted to give this gift to a couple who would love these children the way they deserved. You're going to do great, I told her, squeezing her hand as another contraction hit. Easy for you to say, she panted, but she was smiling. You're not the one pushing out 2 babies. Li Wu was uncharacteristically nervous, pacing the hallway when they took Ji-won to the delivery room. I caught his hand, pulling him to stop. Hey, breathe. What if something goes wrong? What if the babies are too early? What if? I placed my hands on his face, making him look at me. We've had the best doctors, the best care. Ji-won is strong. Our babies are fighters, they're yours and mine after all. Everything is going to be okay. He pulled me close, holding me tight. I love you so much. I love you too. Now come on, we have babies to meet. 4 hours later, I held my daughter for the first time. She was tiny, so impossibly tiny, with a shock of dark hair and the most beautiful face I'd ever seen. When her eyes fluttered open, they were the same dark brown as Li Wu's. Hello, Hyun, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. I'm your papa. I've been waiting so long to meet you. Li Wu stood beside me, holding Seo Jun, who was slightly bigger than his sister but just as perfect. Our son had my nose, my lips, but his father's strong features. They're beautiful, Li Wu said, his voice thick with emotion. They're so beautiful, Min Jin. We made them, I said in wonder. These perfect little humans are ours. Ji-won, exhausted but smiling, watched from the bed. They're lucky to have you both. No, I said, looking at her with gratitude. We're lucky. Ji-won, thank you. Thank you for this incredible gift. She waved a hand. Just promise me you'll send lots of photos. I want to see them grow up happy. We promise, Li Wu said. Always. 6 months later. No, Hyuna, that's your brother's toy. Too late. My daughter had grabbed the rattle from Seo Jun's hand, and he immediately started crying. I scooped him up, bouncing him gently while Li Wu rescued the rattle from Hyun's iron grip. She's definitely got your determination, I said to Li Wu. And he's got your sensitive heart, he countered, but he was smiling. Being parents was exhausting and wonderful and nothing like we'd imagined. The twins were 6 months old now, and every day brought new challenges and joys. Seojun was gentle and observant, watching everything with those serious eyes. Hyun was bold and adventurous, always trying to grab things she shouldn't. Lee Woo had kept his promise. He'd promoted Choi to COO and cut his hours significantly. He worked from home 2 days a week and we'd established a strict rule. No work talk after 7 p.m. unless it was an emergency. We took turns with night feedings, with diaper changes, with soothing tears. We were a team in every sense of the word. I saw Kim Song the other day, I mentioned casually one evening after the twins were finally asleep. We were collapsed on the couch, exhausted but content. At the grocery store. Lee Woo tensed slightly. Did he approach you? No. He saw me with the twins and turned around and left. I snuggled closer to Lee Woo. I felt nothing. No anger, no pain, nothing. He's just a stranger now. Good. Lee Woo kissed the top of my head. He doesn't deserve even a moment of your thoughts. I was thinking, though, I'm glad things happened the way they did. As awful as it was at the time, if I'd never gone through that, I wouldn't have ended up in your hotel room. Wouldn't have found you. Fate, Lee Woo murmured. I used to think it was nonsense. But then you stumbled into my life, drunk and beautiful and broken, and changed everything. I wasn't that drunk, I protested weakly. You were very drunk. He was grinning now. But also very insistent. Very determined to seduce me. I buried my face in his chest, embarrassed even now. Can we never speak of that again? Absolutely not. I'm going to tell that story at our children's weddings. Lee Woo. He laughed and the sound filled me with warmth. This was my life now, this beautiful, chaotic, perfect life. Twins sleeping in the nursery. A husband who loved me completely. A home filled with laughter and love. Thank you, I said quietly. For what? For not sending me away that night. For taking a chance on a broken Omega who didn't know what he needed. You were never broken, Lee Woo said seriously. Just hurt. And you didn't need fixing, Min Jin. You needed someone to love you while you healed yourself. Semantics. Truth. He tilted my face up to his. You're the strongest person I know. You survived betrayal, rebuilt yourself, opened your heart again even though you were terrified. That's not broken, that's courage. I kissed him, pouring all my love and gratitude into it. Even after all this time, kissing Lee Woo felt like coming home. I love you, I said against his lips. So much it scares me sometimes. Good scared or bad scared? Good scared. The kind that means I have something precious to lose. You're not going to lose me, he promised. I'm yours, Min Jin. For the rest of our lives and whatever comes after. A cry came from the nursery. Hyun, always the more demanding twin. Your daughter, I said. Our daughter, Lee Woo corrected, standing and pulling me up with him. Come on, let's go see what the little tyrant wants. Don't call our daughter a tyrant. Why not? She's definitely inherited her father's demanding nature. We walked together to the nursery, where Hyun was indeed demanding attention while Seojun slept peacefully. Lee Woo picked her up and she immediately calmed, grabbing at his face with her tiny hands. See? Tyrant, he said fondly. I watched them together, my fierce alpha and our fierce daughter, and felt my heart swell with love. This was everything I'd ever wanted. Everything I'd thought I'd lost forever. What are you thinking? Lee Woo asked, noticing my expression. That I'm happy, I said simply. Really truly happy. For the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. With me. With you, I confirmed. With our family. With our life. Lee Woo reached out with his free hand, pulling me close so we stood together, our daughter between us, our son sleeping peacefully nearby. This is just the beginning, he said. We have so much ahead of us. Watching them grow up, teaching them about the world, maybe giving them siblings someday. Someday, I agreed. But for now this is perfect. You're perfect. We're perfect, I corrected. Together. And we were. Not because we didn't have struggles or challenges. Not because every day was easy. But because we faced everything together as partners, as lovers, as family. I'd stumbled into Lee Woo's room looking to forget my pain. Instead I'd found my future. And what a beautiful future it was.